The mandrake, I believe it does. It seems to be a kind of a low growing plant. Yeah, it's above the ground. Well, this will say the sources I looked at said that it actually yields a kind of a plum-like fruit, and so I don't know. Maybe they were using the root, huh? And there is more than one kind of mandrake. Yeah, and so there is some uncertainty about that too, whether it was, what kind of plant exactly and what part of the plant. In some cases, the root might be used. In some cases, the fruit might be used. The sources I found said that this particular thought was that it was the fruit of this plant have aphrodisiac properties and so forth, and so Rachel gets the mandrakes. Leah gets her husband. She bears another son, as we see here, as we did see last week, as we were wrapping this up from last week. She has another son, Issachar, meaning the hired man, and saying, I've hired my husband. And then she conceives another time, and has another son, Zebulun, may my husband dwell with me. She is again vying for her husband's affections. Finally, we get down to this, into this section. Here we find that verse 21, afterwards she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. And I think Dinah here is mentioned. This is not necessarily meaning that Dinah was the only daughter, but was named here particularly because of, as we will see later, an episode that will take place once Jacob is in Canaan, and the significance of Dinah. So here we see where she falls in the birth order and why the events that unfold, what we will see unfold later, become apparent. She is the full sister of Leah's children. And then finally and at last, Rachel has a child. Rachel conceives and finally bears a son. God gave heed to her, it says in verse 22, remembered her, gave heed to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son. And notice her expression here. God has taken away my reproach. Apparently, this was a matter of shame, of great embarrassment to her that she had not given her husband a son directly. She had had children through her handmaid in that sense, but she had not born a son herself. And this was apparently a matter of great, like I said, of great embarrassment, of great frustration to her. And now finally she bears a son, bears Joseph to him, and said, God has vindicated me in that sense, and named him so that, may the Lord add to me. She wants more sons. She wants more children. And so we see again the contest between these two women vying for the affection of Jacob. Jacob now goes to Laban. It came about when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go to my own place and to my own country. Now, again, I think we'll want to watch the timing of this, because this is going to become significant, I think, in the next chapter. Jacob has had enough of working for Laban, and he's got now Leah as wife. He's got Rachel for wife. He's completed this, 14 years of service to Laban. At this point, he wants to return back to his homeland. And he suggests, give me my wives and children for whom I have served you, and let me depart, for you know that my service which I have rendered to you. But Laban said to him, if it now pleases you, stay with me. I have divined that the Lord has blessed me on your account. And he continued, name your wages, and I will give it. But he said to him, you yourself know that I have served you, and how your cattle have fared with me. For you had little ones before I came, and it has increased to a multitude. And the Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. But now what shall I provide for my own household also? For he said, what shall I give you? And Jacob said, you shall not give me anything. If you give me if you will do this one thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted sheep, and every black among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and such shall be my wages. So that my honesty will answer for me later when you come concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled or spotted among the goats and black among the lambs, if it is found with me, will be considered stolen. And Laban said, good, let it be according to your word. So he removed on that day the striped and spotted male goats and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one with white in it, and all of the black ones among the sheep, and he gave them to the care of his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of the flock. So you see here what plan is. Jacob is done. He's tired of serving Laban. He's been working for 14 years. He's been working hard, and he's proposing to leave. He wants to go home. Take my wife. I'm going to take my wife, my wives, and family, and we're going to leave. But Laban knows that he's been prospering because of Jacob. He knows that it's because Jacob's skill as a shepherd, Jacob's attentiveness to detail, his attentiveness to the task has helped Laban prosper. So he proposes, you see here, to raise him in status. He's no longer going to be a servant, and he's now going to be a partner. And so, look, I'll make you a partner, sort of in this endeavor. So Jacob, Laban says, all right, what do you want for wages? So Jacob now proposes a fairly shrewd agreement. He says, I'll take all of the future speckled, spotted, and black sheep and goats. And Laban says, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And so he takes all of those animals and separates them from the flock. He leaves with Jacob, he leaves only essentially the white animals as we read this. And the speckled, among of those animals among the flock, then they are stolen animals. So Laban thinks he struck this pretty shrewd deal, and notice again how what Laban does, separating out these animals that have these characteristics, and putting, we see here, 3 days. He says he could put a distance of 3 days' journey. So he's going to make sure that there's no intermingling of these flocks. This is Laban now, frankly, trying to cheat Jacob. He really is. He's trying to cheat Jacob out of a salary, because he wants Jacob to continue to care for these white animals, pure white animals, and thinks that which he had peeled in front of the flocks in the gutters, even in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, and they mated where they came to drink. So the flocks mated by the rods, and the flocks brought forth striped, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face toward the striped and all the black of the flock of Laban, and he put his own herds apart and did not put them with Laban's flock. Moreover, it came about that when the strongest of the flock were mating, Jacob would place the rods in the side of the flock in the gutters, so that they might mate by the rods. But when the flock was feeble, he did not put them in, so the feebler were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. So the man became exceedingly prosperous and had large flocks and servants and camels and donkeys. So again, we see the action here of Jacob. He takes these rods, he peels these rods to make stripes in them, so they will show up in these patterns. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about this. Why does Jacob do this? What's his purpose here? And there's been, and I've got up on the screen here on the chart, I got a number of some of these speculations